Hey guys, welcome back to the exciting conclusion of David Walliams' Gangster Granny. Now, if you've enjoyed Ben and Granny's adventures, and you loved the dancing and all that great stuff, and I know a lot of you really loved the naked yoga, guess what? Gangster Granny is back. What? The black cat is back in Gangsta Granny Strikes Again. So, if you have liked Gangster Granny and you want to see the black cat strike again, make sure you check this one out. All right, let's get started and let's get through with the exciting conclusion of Gangster Granny. Chapter 34. The funeral was on Christmas Eve. Ben had never been to a funeral before. He thought it was bizarre. As the coffin lay at the front of the church, the mourners mumbled their way through unfamiliar hymns, and a vicar who had never met Granny made a tedious speech about her. It wasn't the vicar's fault, but he could have been waffling on about an old lady who had just died, any old lady who had just died. He went on a dreary monotone about how she liked visiting old churches and how she was always kind to animals. Ben wanted to shout out. He wanted to tell everyone, his mom and dad, his uncles and aunts, everyone there about what an incredible granny she was, how she told the most amazing stories, and most of all, he wanted to tell them about the marvelous adventure he had shared with her, and how they had nearly stolen the crown jewels and met the queen. But no one would have believed him. He was only 11. They would assume he had made the whole thing up. When they arrived home, most of the people who were at the church descended on the house. They drank cup after cup of tea and ate plate after plate of sandwiches and sausage rolls. It seemed weird having the Christmas decorations up at such a sad time. At first people chatted about Granny, but soon they were gossiping about other things. Ben sat alone on the sofa. He listened to the adults talking. Granny had left him all her books, and they were now cluttering up his bedroom in great piles. He was tempted to hide away in his room with them. After a while, a kindly-looking old lady moved slowly across the room with her Zimmer frame and eased herself down next to him on the sofa. "You must be Ben. You don't remember me, do you?" said the old lady. Ben looked at her for a moment. She was right. "Last time I saw you was your first birthday," she said. "No wonder I don't remember," thought Ben. "I am Granny's cousin Edna," she said. "Me and your Granny used to play together as girls when we were about your age. I had a fall a few years ago, and I couldn't cope on my own, so I was put into an old folks' home. Your Granny was the only person who would come and visit." "Really? We didn't think she ever went out," said Ben. "Well, she came to see me once a month. It wasn't easy for her. She had to get all four different buses. I was extremely grateful. She was a very special lady." "She was indeed, incredibly kind and thoughtful. I don't have any children or grandchildren of my own, you see, so me and your Granny would sit in the lounge at the old folks' home and play Scrabble for hours together." "Scrabble?" said Ben. "Yes, she told me how much you liked playing it too," said Edna. Ben couldn't help but smile. "Yes, I loved it," said Ben. And to his surprise, he realized he wasn't lying. Looking back, he had loved it. Now his Granny was gone. Every moment he had spent with her seemed precious, more precious even than the crown jewels. "She never stopped talking about you," said Edna. "Your dear old Granny said you were the light of her life. She said she would really look forward to you coming to stay on a Friday. It was the best part of her week." "It was the best part of my week, too," said Ben. "Well, if you like Scrabble, you must pop over to the old folks' home one day for a game," said Edna. "I need a new partner now your Granny's gone." "That would be great," said Ben. Later that evening, as his parents watched the Strictly Stars Dancing Christmas special, Ben climbed out of his bedroom window and slid down the drain pipe without making a sound. He took his bike out of the garage and cycled to Granny's house one last time. Snow was falling. It crunched under his wheels of his bike. Ben watched it come down, landing softly on the ground, barely paying attention to his route. He knew the journey off by heart now. He had cycled to the old lady's house so many times over the last few months, he knew every bump and crack in the road. He stopped his bike outside Granny's little bungalow. There was a scattering of snow on the roof. Post was piled up outside. The lights were off, and there was a for sale sign with icicles hanging off of it standing outside. Even so, Ben was half expecting to see Granny out the window, looking at him with that hopeful little smile of hers. But of course, she wasn't there. She was gone forever. But she wasn't gone from his heart. Ben wiped away a tear, took a deep breath, and cycled off home. He sure had an amazing story to tell his grandchildren one day. Postscript. "Christmas is a special time of year," said the Queen. She was her usual serious self, seated majestically on an antique chair at Buckingham Palace, once again delivering her annual message to the nation. Mom and Dad had just finished their Christmas lunch and were slumped together on the sofa, with mugs of tea, watching the Queen on TV, as they did every year. "A time for families to get together and celebrate," Her Majesty went on. "However, let's not forget the elderly. A few weeks ago, I met a lady around my age and her grandson at the Tower of London." Ben squirmed uncomfortably in his seat. He glanced at his parents, but they were watching the TV, oblivious. "It made me think how the young need to show a little more kindness to the elderly. If you are a young person watching this, perhaps give up your seat for an elderly person on the bus, or help them carry their shopping. Share a game of Scrabble with us. Why not bring us a nice bag of Murray mints once in a while? We old folks do love a nice chomp on a mint. And most of all, young people of this country, I want you to remember this. We old people are certainly not boring. You never know, one day we might even shock you." Then, with a mischievous grin, the Queen lifted up her skirt and the entire country and flashed her Union Jacket knickers. Mum and Dad spat out their tea all over the carpet in astonishment, but Ben just smiled. The Queen's a proper gangsta, he thought, just like my granny. All right, guys, that does it for Gangster Granny. And again, if you loved that, make sure you check out Gangster Granny Strikes Again. You can find it in the link above.